Hi, my name is Johnny Gicar, and welcome to Mindset, Self-Awareness, and Personal Growth, and strive towards the ultimate goal of mastering ourselves. Let's mindset engineer. Welcome to the works. You hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Hello.
What's going on, guys?
We're good, and you?
I'm trying this doing shit at home between a wall, my bed, and it's fucked up.
That's awesome.
What's up, Skiers?
Not much. How you guys been?
Not bad, man. Weird times.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy fucking shit going on. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got some interesting folks in the house today. Please introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Hello. Well, I'm Liana Carbone, and I am an artist and the founder of Haven Creative Studio.
I'm Anthony Liscio, co-founder of Haven and husband of Liana.
Very nice. So the reason why I invited you guys here is because I'm following you guys on what you're doing.
Cool.
It's been a while, and it's some super interesting things going on, concepts. So I want to know basically how did it all start? Because you guys didn't originally start with this, right?
No.
I've always considered myself a multidisciplinary artist of sorts. I began in performance arts when I was younger, in the first 2 decades of my life, and studied communications in college, which really got me critically thinking about the media that we're consuming and the messages that are encoded within it. And at around 20, I began exploring more intensively visual arts through painting and photography really stuck with me as a way of really being able to encode an image with whatever I was feeling was going on within myself or the collective. So I began image making, and yeah, the journey began then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, then you worked in marketing for a few years, 4 years, and then after Lee worked in marketing for a couple of years while I was working in finance. We decided together that she would actually branch off and start her dream project, which is Haven. And so basically we have the same kind of journey. I would say Lee has accepted herself as an artist from way back when she was young. For me, it was like something I always did, but it was always like a side thing. It was like I played guitar from 9 years old, right? And I was always involved in artistic stuff, but only when Lee and I started actually getting together years ago, like 10 years ago, and I would actually go to her communications classes. Nice. And or help with her communications projects rather. Mm-hmm. And that's really what sparked sort of like this idea of media in my head. Then after that, I went off and I worked in finance for 7 years.
So what made you do that jump?
To come back?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was just being inspired by Lee. Lee was doing basically everything that we always spoke about. And she was actually, actualizing it and making it happen in the real world. And so that's what brought me out of finance and back into the media space.
I think that an ongoing thread in this story, though, that we haven't touched on yet, is there came a point in my early 20s where my health was unbalanced. And I felt intuitively that the only way to heal my body was to come into balance of body, mind, and soul was to honor what my soul wanted, which was to be making art full time.
Yeah.
So there's a healing current in this space and the intention that it was brought forth. And I didn't feel at the time in Montreal, there was a space where was a hybrid between an art studio and a space where people can gather to explore healing arts as well, so the fusion between the two has been integral on my path. And I think that Anthony was feeling that imbalance of like body, mind, and soul as well, like in his career in finance, which was like really intense on him. And Haven was like a haven, you know, like
Exactly.
where on the
Yeah.
weekends he would come and we would have like breathwork immersions, or we would have like creative photo shoots, and it's just like a safe space where like he can come and explore that side of him that wanted to like be more active in his healing journey.
So basically, in this space here, what do you guys host, kind of? Because you just mentioned a few things, so it sounds like there's a lot more than just.
I think there's four pillars to Haven, if we want to look at it that way. I think there's a photo production side, which is the I guess the core of it, the thing Liana had initially started, which was her business, was a photography production company. Since then, the studio became, we started renting out the studio to other creatives, and then Liana brought in a lot of, through her connections and through her work, brought in a lot of people who started giving workshops out of the space. Workshops generally geared towards healing,
exploring your creativity as an outlet to transmute different energy and to like work through things,
Yeah. So like I guess the pillars are photography, production, then workshops, then studio rentals, and something we brought in. Lee had been doing a little bit of it with some other collaborators before, but we started to ramp that up much more when I came in, was video production. So obviously, media is very, very video heavy, and that's sort of like, again, thanks to Lee, she sparked my interest in video, and then when I developed a passion for that, we incorporated that pretty strongly in last year.
Very nice. It sounds like interesting. So out of all this, this is where I'm getting intrigued now, right? So what is the most interesting project or that you've done with your space, or something that has resonated with you compared to possibly others?
Do you mean like a workshop we did in the space specifically, or any production?
Any type that really kind of left an impact?
I think that like what we really like to explore here is like the intersection between two different worlds. So what we like to do a lot is we like to fuse elements of workshops which are very engaging and involving of everybody on set. We fuse that into our creative process. So we don't see like the models or the people who are like physically on the set, like we don't just see them as like
a means to an end,
performers or actors. They're actively involved in the active participants in the creative process. So it's a bit more of like what I like to call like a circle approach instead of the traditional media approach, which is more of a triangle like hierarchy thing. So it's very collaborative in that sense. Whatever we make is like almost like a co-creation. And I think the last couple of projects that I have been posting about like on my feed, which involve like a lot more people on set, a lot more women on set, I think is kind of like that, shows that through line of, I guess, what we consider has been an interesting area that we're tapping into.
So basically, if somebody comes into your space and decides, they want to do project X, let's say, you guys get involved in the project.
Yeah, well, everything that happens in the space is curated by us.
Okay.
We don't just rent. I think Anthony maybe presented it kind of like as an Airbnb style, but
exactly. That's why I want. Okay, perfect.
It's all curated in like it's a creative community. It's very inclusive, but we like to know like what the people are doing. We look at their portfolios. Often the people who rent the space are repeat visitors, so there is like a creative community around Haven.
Yeah, but that's for the workshops, right? Like, so like workshops are one thing. They're obviously curated.
For shoots too, and it's like go check out people's work and stuff.
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we like to as much as possible try and choose our clients too. So work with people who allow us to work in the way we want to work, right? So
Well, it
that's
has to be a right energetic match, you know, like we have
Exactly.
to be
Yeah.
looking for something that we can offer, and they have to be like, we have to be looking for something they have too. So it's like,
So basically, you said before that this all came about kind of like being in tune of what your body, mind, soul, I guess, was reaching out to go get out of the world. So, like, what was the I guess the that moment that said, kind of like that sparked that little light bulb and said, okay, wait a minute, I need to look into something else. Was there a specific moment, or you always knew that this is what you wanted to do?
I think early on, like in university, when I began collaborating in teams with other creatives, and I saw the magic of teamwork that's behind productions, especially with individuals who are aligned. Like, I was like, whoa. I remember telling Anthony back then, I'm like, I want an art collective. Like, I want to make like a space. Like, I was maybe 20 years old when I mentioned that to Anthony. And I'm like, oh, I would love to make a space where like we can co-create bigger things, you know, because like to really achieve something spectacular, it transcends the individual. Like you need like a team behind it, you know, different opinions, different skills, different gifts. So we're all about that here. And I mean, it was a dream from the early 20s, but we were actually able to actualize it like maybe like 6 years later. You know, we went off work. We got our first art studio when I was like 23, so like 7 years ago now. And then we moved into it, but we always lived like, from when we moved out of our parents' house, we always lived in like an art studio. So there was always that integrated aspect of like, whenever we wanted to be creative, if Anthony wanted to play music or if I wanted to paint, it was part of our lifestyle. And now it's 4 years that we have Haven as like a standalone studio, and then a living space separate from it.
Yeah.
But it's also very close.
Yeah, it's nearby, but it makes it more of like a space for like, you know, for this work in particular, and that our community uses to create as well, or to host workshops or these hybrid events like we were talking about.
Super cool. So where do you guys what do you guys turn to for inspiration in your work?
I think a lot of our inspiration comes from like our own healing process, like the things that we're going through and the things that were being reflected in our community and in our group work, you know, because we try to make our work as human as possible. So a lot of it is like these like lessons and realizations that like, as we're processing, like we're like, okay, we want to like put that into the piece, you know, like we want it to feel like something that we're feeling so that our audience can feel with us. I think that's what we try to do. What about you, Ants?
Yeah, I think I get inspired by the way in which people do things than necessarily what they're doing. So I'll be inspired by somebody's process or by somebody's you can look to great filmmakers for how they make films or how they frame shots or something like that. But I don't necessarily, I can't say that I go into every project looking for a specific aesthetic from someone else. I think that's up to us to create our own style, our own vibe, but more like, you know, what are the best practices of how to produce a shoot in the right way? What are, you know, what are visually some of the things that are interesting that other people are doing, but then sort of take all that and, you know.
Yeah, that's I totally understand that, because even for me, when I record these conversations with people, every single conversation is different. Every single energy is different. The vibes are different. So yeah, I think that I just go with the flow. I don't like planning certain things, but I think that this is my opinion, that the most important thing is being in tune to what you want to do. like being in tune to what your message wants to be or what you want to output, and just sticking to being true to yourself. I think that's the best way to go about it, because like if you try to like box people in, like you're kind of like reducing their creative vibe, I guess. Or
For sure. That's why like I have a hard time with like titles or genres or like anything like that.
Yeah.
I like to keep it really open. I think that what we're doing here is we're examining, observing the human experience from our lens and from the lens of our community, and we're trying to just work with that, like okay, what can we do with this, like what we're truly feeling and observing around us right now. So
yeah, I mean, production traditionally is really is hyper planned.
I'm so much more I'm about that openness a lot.
I would say our productions are a nice balance of we have extremely rigorous planning too, don't get me wrong. Like,
there's a certain amount of planning that has to be done.
We don't show up on set with missing gear or something.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like there's definitely a ton of planning what we do. There's a ton of mood boarding, and of course we're drawing off inspiration and stuff. There's all the traditional steps of the production process. I think we just leave a bit more room for
magic to happen.
Intuitive magic to happen on the spot as well. So I think that's our that's how we create value, and how we do media a little bit differently, is leaving a bit more space for the spontaneous.
And it's traditionally accepted in our industry.
Okay, so explain to me that. What's the difference between, or what you guys do versus, let's say, the general misconception of like the production industry?
I think things are a lot more scripted usually, but we just like to keep some space for magic to happen in the room. I think that's what keeps me going. And I don't think I'd be able to do this work without that. Like there has to be an element of there's this quote in human design, which I've been super interested in lately, that says that, to think that we own our creativity is the biggest vanity. We're all just responding.
Wow. That's cool.
And I love to respond. So if it's too structured and I can't respond to what's happening in the moment, I can't direct the models or people on set based on what I'm really feeling, then it's too boxed for me,
Yeah,
I feel you. Try to tap into that space where Anthony's like order and I'm chaos. Like he makes sure that like all the conditions of planning are really like the gears or the batteries are all charged, that we have all the right stuff rented, the lights, is all well structured, which creates the safe container for that exploration to happen. So there's a certain amount of order and a certain amount of chaos, I think, needed for like true magic to take place.
Yeah, and I think like it depends. That's if your project is such that it requires a production company that's traditional, then that's who you're going to go with. And I think for us, it's more of a like, we're going to find the niche of people that want to maybe tell an authentic story or give an authentic representation of something. And so those clients are going to come to us, small, medium, big. That's what I think you need to be careful about, is trying to be like this umbrella that catches everything. So we're trying to bring that traditional aspect, which is structure, which brings comfort obviously to clients, to say that, okay, like I know I could trust these people, but also we're in a world where people are starting to not want to accept media that's so contrived, media that's so perfect. So we're going into a world that wants something that's a little more raw. Now, if you think that you're going to achieve that by planning everything, then it goes counter to what you're trying to achieve. So I think that's the way we're going to differentiate ourselves. And obviously we're still very young in this, and we have ways to go and tons of room to grow. But I think we've so far shown that in a lot of different contexts, whether it was small, medium, or big businesses or people we were working with, we've been able to achieve stuff by using this sort of hybrid approach of very structured planning, but also a little bit of space.
Well, not only differentiate ourselves, but also like in sharing our experience and our process, like in conversations like this, hopefully inspire others.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why, like,
Creative play, you know?
that's the whole thing. And that was going to be my next question is, do you think that, like everybody knows, like, you know, I guess common media is very scripted, or you see you think that people are opening up more to this concept? Because is this like a new concept, like what you guys are trying to, or the ideology that you're trying to go with, you know, don't box yourself in, don't plan too much, and create that flow of ideas and creative state, I guess, if you want to call it. Like, is it something new, or is it becoming more, I guess, common to people?
I don't know. I think you gotta sort of see where your talents lie too. You know, for us, it's like we're good in the moment. We're good spontaneously.
Yeah.
It works for us. So if we weren't good spontaneously, we wouldn't do that. So I would just, you know, it really depends.
But I think that it taps a lot more into like intuitive creativity, and I think that that's what we try to foster in our practices here.
But yeah, to answer your question, I think yes, I think there's a movement towards people requiring something less, how can I say this, shallow out of media. Okay. Less shallow, less scripted. I mean, you know, you look at anything today from the news to advertisement, it's ultra scripted. And script is great. Script is phenomenal. I mean, you know, some of the things you do are, we'll write a script, but I think for the most part, what we like to do is different, and I think we do it more because we like it than because we found some trend that we're trying to get on.
Yeah, exactly.
For us, it was not a process that was taught to us. It's not something that we read about. It's strategized. It's something that was like intuitively came through in like.
And that's still coming through.
It's still coming through.
Figuring this out.
I think that myself and Anthony do it in very different ways.
Yeah.
I think that like I'm really not scripted, like in the sense that like I really work with the energies of the people in the room, and like that's how I guide. Mm-hmm. Whereas Anthony is really good at like capturing people, like speaking in their essence, or like, let's say like something more documentary style. He's like, I think what we both tap into is like, we can hold space for people to be authentic. And I just do it in a way that's a bit more performance art, and Anthony does it in a way that's more documentary style.
Yeah, like for example, I shot like a small documentary for a Montreal restaurateur, right? Okay. And we could have scripted the whole thing, right? We could have written every single word and pretended like he authentically said all this stuff. We didn't. We just the only thing that was scripted was sort of like some questions that we would talk about, but essentially we had a conversation like this one.
Exactly.
And yeah, eventually, as this documentary is getting put together, I like that raw feeling of it, you know? So
I think it like being unscripted or not planning anything, just like this conversation now, right? With whatever, we just talking about whatever, and whatever comes to mind, and it goes to get that beauty, right? Like it's raw, and it goes to get that beauty of like, okay, what are you really feeling? You have to go to a place where you're actually influencing people.
Yeah.
And if you're not, you're never going to catch their entire, like their guts, kind of like, you're never going to bring them in.
I think it has to be like a transmission, like something that like really impacted you, like through something like you've lived, you know? Like I think a lot of people try to influence without having the foundation of like having experienced or living something profound.
Exactly.
Like I think that if we focus more on like really taking everything in our life as a blessing, whether it was the light or the shadow of whatever we lived throughout our life, like that's our expertise. it's what we've lived, hopping on a trend and trying to influence or like teach or speak or create content on something that like is just a trend, but you haven't truly lived and embodied, like that's when it's like lackluster,
Exactly.
So
yeah, just working on things you care about is so important. Like, and making the best out of every situation. Like, we've had clients in all different spectrums, right? But I think the through line of everything we worked on, whether it was a workshop at the space or a video project or a photo project with any type of client, small or big, I think the through line was always forget about the end result of the product. Even just the way we work with people is in a way that's ultra human. We build that relationship and we build that trust, because then what we require from them is a lot of trust to have us work in the way we work. So for me, that's what it is. It's about building honest relationships, doing things that you want to do in the way you want to do them. And finding those matches. So often in business, we try and force getting a client or working with people or doing a certain thing.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I've had so many cool experiences in the last year working on such different things, and even maybe a topic or a thing that I may not have been that interested in, but with amazing people, it actually sparked my interest in it. So
yeah, a lot of the business today, especially in my field where I'm in, construction, engineering, I see a lot of like the people going to get business, like you see their approach is so like, it's like fucking plastic. It's like, they're just going in, and it's like you see them coming in and their ultimate goal is, I want your business.
I want more money from you.
Before asking your potential client, well, how could I help you?
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's something really messed up and inorganic in that. And it's like, I don't know, it does not build like a sustainable community in any way. It's everybody's looking to take and not to give. Because when you ask somebody what they truly need, you're looking for what you can give, and then you'll be rewarded based on that, but everybody is looking to take, and that creates a lot of imbalances in our society for sure. I actually hope that in this period of deep reflection, a lot of people can come into that space of like analyzing how they can actually give more, instead of focusing on all this taking.
But it's true. And like a lot of like I love talking to people, right? Because you just get like different vibes, and especially during this time, like, what are you doing to keep busy? Like stupid questions like, what are you reading? Like, what are you doing? What are you listening to? And like so many people, I find they're not actually taking the opportunity to do something for themselves, and then eventually going to put it out there, right? So what are you creating during this time? Like, are you doing something with yourself to?
It's interesting you say that, because like I think actually, since we're on the topic of media, because we're media creators, right? It's odd that I think the media does have a huge responsibility, and I think the media hasn't been doing the best job, because there's a lot of fear out there, and I think that's what keeps, or has been keeping people so worried. And you're absolutely right. It's the perfect opportunity to do a bunch of things that you didn't get a chance to do before, to take some time for yourself, to learn new things. But often, and myself included, I've been, myself included, during this period, there's some days where I can't put the car into gear because you get distracted by all these things. So definitely, I think there's a responsibility there to be a little bit more balanced, a little bit more. A little bit more conscious of the repercussions of also this media that we're facing, because it's not just this virus that we're facing right now, it's also the media. And
the media itself is a virus for your mind and for your soul, because it takes you, it's so polarized towards the shadow side of our reality. And yes, there's a pandemic, and yes, a shortage of supplies, and yes, some people are dying, other people are in unfavorable quarantine situations. Okay, there's a lot of layers to this cake. It's really like devastating, yes. But there's no balance in traditional media to say, okay, we're going to put all this fear-based part, a lot of it truth, some of it questionable, in your face. And then it's like, how do we balance that? Like, is there anything offered
and it would
there?
be so easy. It would be so easy. Like, for example, I mean, if we just take this case, and I know, I don't want to. We all talk about this COVID-19 stuff too much, so I don't get into it too much. But I'm just saying the amount of focus on the people that died versus the amount of people that have recovered. Why not just put a story out on, hey, like 99% of people have recovered really well so far.
Yeah.
Or
what have people done to help other people?
Exactly. Give
exactly.
more.
There's so many stories. There's amazing stories of like people coming out of retirement to go help. And like, that's like 1% of the media out there. So no problem. Give me the scary part. But give me 50-50.
Yeah, like balance it for me.
Exactly.
Like, media has forever been used as fear propaganda.
We're in a process of like, integrating a lot and like closing out a lot of, using this time to close out a lot of art projects and documentaries and whatnot that we hadn't had a chance to finish in the hustle and bustle before COVID-19. But going forward, we hope to output from Haven like media that can create a bit more balance. Because we see this as a responsibility as a media company to address that.
Yeah, this thing that's going on actually has for me has given me so much fuel to once this is all over to really go out there and like really try and make a difference with the media that we're outputting, because
the people we give a voice to through featuring or whatnot, what I mean?
I think we have a responsibility, big and small, to really realize that we change the vibe of the whole planet with what we put out there. And so much of it is violence, so much of it is,
hypersexualized.
So much of it is like so bad for us psychologically, and it's been proven. So I think we got to be cognizant about that. We can't turn a blind eye anymore. And
how does when you see something on the media, how does it affect you? Like, since you guys are in media, how do you view it? Kind of like you see something and you're like, oh, how could this have been sent out differently or deliver a different delivery kind of?
Well, as an intuitive type, and I'm very sensitive to energies and work with energy too, and I feel like a lot of the media that is put out, it is very low vibrational, and actually in the body, the part of the body that it keeps you in is really the bottom energy centers. So if you look at fear and violence and all that, it's like it puts you in a survival state, which is actually your root, your bottom. And then like a lot of like what Anthony was touching on that's out there, like all hypersexualized stuff as well, also keeps you rooted. So it's actually not rooted, but like in a lower energy center of your body. So like it's not allowing people to rise up into their heart, up into this energy center right under the heart, which is like your personal power and feeling like you have the strength to fight this, or come into your heart, the compassion, or come into your throat and like speak about what you're feeling.
It also doesn't leave room for questioning anymore, and I think that's become really troubling for me. And I get why. I know that there's a lot of outlandish stuff too, but I feel like in a free society, we need to, just as outlandish as our mainstream media is to be so one way, we got to respect everybody's opinion. And actually the conversation and the conversations that we have, often the conversations between the moderates, is where truth lies, not some, hyper left or hyper right opinion about something. So I think that's the way I look at it now. When I look at media now, I'm kind of disappointed, and I think that's good, because that means that
there's a lot of space for improvement.
Yeah, and that means that
exactly.
That's why I'm in that space now, right? I was in banking, and I essentially left management consulting and investment banking because I was so basically appalled by the way that they go about doing business.
A lot of greed and dysfunctions there too.
A lot of greed, a lot of dysfunction. Definitely not working in society in the best interest of society, and that is the case for a lot of massive business. So including media. So that's the way I saw it, and this is my way or our way of trying to make a little bit of a difference. At least our community and our clients will benefit from what is hopefully, and I say hopefully because we're human beings and nobody's perfect. And what I mean is hopefully we'll do a bit of a better job at keeping a balanced and healthy.
Well, making it more open and engaging,
information.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Well, what about if we go back to those energies? Because I'm a big believer of energy too. And like, you know, it comes down to even when you just like meet a random person on the street, you could feel their energy. So
Well, I
going
mean,
back,
we're electric. We have a nervous system. Right?
Exactly. But I find a lot of people are like, they're not paying attention to it.
Mm.
Like, they're not paying attention to it. And it's like, there's so many, like the number one thing I'll tell people, and like, it sounds like corny as hell. Okay. And a lot of people are just like, I don't need that shit. I say meditate. Like, take the time. And like, people associate, like, you know, meditating, you sit down, you close your eyes, you cross your legs, and you have no thoughts. But it's not that. Like, if you go into it, it's actually, you are going into your thoughts, you are paying attention to them, you are paying attention to the feelings that it gives you, your emotions. You're actually paying attention to that.
Yeah.
And then once you kind of like notice that feeling, okay, then you capture that
and you let it go.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people say like, I don't know how to meditate because I can't sit quietly.
Monkey man.
Yeah, it's like, you're not supposed to sit quietly with no thoughts. That's not.
I don't think anybody can, like, humanly, right? You have to really cultivate it.
Exactly. So yeah, there's so many things that people are like not going to. I mean, it's there, right? It's like right there. You just need to go get it, or to explore it at the least.
We're in a culture now that doesn't want to talk anymore. People just are so attached to their opinions about stuff, and that troubles me because if everybody knows everything, then what are we doing here? In reality,
Exactly.
nobody knows anything, and we need to have conversations, and that's what media is for. I mean, media historically, journalists historically were, especially mainstream media, was supposed to always challenge whatever was coming out of government or big business to see and to
open a conversation,
make sure that what they're putting out is as true as it could possibly be.
But okay, we know that mass media is obviously corrupted in propaganda and whatnot. So I think everyone's aware of that to a certain extent. So I think it's like, okay, how can we have those conversations in other spaces? So I think also like what we're doing right now, like podcasts and stuff like that. The reason why those are on the rise is because actually, yes, there is a lot of people that are interested in creating these sound bites that can allow for other conversations to be open and explored, hear different perspectives. And so I actually really appreciate, so we've talked about the negative side, but like on the positive side, a lot of people have been sharing their gifts, their knowledge, their wisdom, and having conversations on social media these days that I've really appreciated, like a lot of IG lives and stuff like that.
Yeah, big time.
So something that you asked me earlier, what inspires us, and I didn't touch on like nature is a really, really, really big inspiration, and also cultures that hold a very dear relationship with nature. So a lot of the people that I've been following have close relationships with like Aboriginal communities and stuff like that. And like a lot of what's happening in the world right now, like this devastation and like all it's like was prophesized in a lot of different tribes that like this would happen eventually one day, and that people one day would go seeking this reconnection with nature and themselves and all these things. So there's an emergence of this now, and I think that we almost needed like a reset and like a shock of some sort to take people back into this like place where I could pay attention to that again, you know?
So you're looking at this as kind of like a reset?
I think that we're in a massive awakening of humanity and people coming back into their heart space, but it's taking shape in a way that first is revealing all the dysfunctions, And I don't know, I believe in equal light and equal shadows. So I think that there's, always good and bad happening simultaneously. But I'm seeing a lot of people, coming into a space where they are questioning and are allowing themselves to reconnect with like their inner child and the things that brought them joy, whether it was like creative practices or whatnot. So I think there's a lot of changes coming for us,
Yeah, I think we're in a fork in the road, to be honest with you, and I think it's very critical that we think critically as people, because it's one thing is inevitable. Things are going to change in the future. Now, whether they change for the better or for worse, for the general population, that's going to be up to us,
Yeah.
But I don't know that just following mainstream media is going to get us to where we want to be. So I think that these fringe movements and these just people talking and allowing each other to open up the conversation about anything, to question whatever they want to question and still treat people with respect, even if you don't agree with their opinion, is going to become super, super important.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key, right? Is the, like you said, we hit kind of like almost like a wall, and not everybody's kind of stopped. Some people are questioning, some people are not. But the people that are questioning, obviously, they're going to have different opinions. Who's going to be on the right side? Who's going to be on the left side? But it's the whole respect thing, right?
Yeah.
If you can't respect the other person, you'll never hear them out. And if you never hear them out, chances are, like I truly believe in like the best way to learn is actually to listen, to talk, and to listen to people.
Listening is huge, man.
Everybody has something to bring you. Like I think Anthony said before, like if we know everything, why the fuck are we here?
Why are we here?
Well, exactly. That's why everybody becoming a virologist now, or everybody's a doctor, and even at that, even if you are a virologist and a doctor, so many people are just repeating. They went to school, they learned something, they repeat.
Yeah.
Even professionals that we are supposed to trust aren't necessarily thinking critically. So
yeah,
I just feel like we can't discount anybody's opinion. And often one of the things that's been really frustrating for me looking on social media, and that's why I'm kind of not looking at it anymore, is how people are calling each other out on something. Somebody might say something like, are these numbers really real that are coming out of here, or are they overstating them, or is the model not correct? Why can we not challenge that, or why can we not have an opinion on that, and just have a respectful conversation around it?
Yep.
I think that the solution is, obviously is to come together, and like anything that is causing people to point fingers at one another, or like tear people apart, or segregate or marginalize groups, like that is the opposite of the solution, and it is a sensitive time where like there's a lot of fear in the environment, like all around, everywhere, on a global level. And it's easy to go into that state of separation where you're calling each other out, but it's so important that we do what we can as humans, as individuals, to cultivate whatever practices we can. You mentioned meditation, but maybe it could be a creative art practice, but to stay as much as you can in your heart space, because when you're in your heart space, you've risen up from that fear-based area, and you're in a space where you can hold more compassion for different people and their opinions and situations, and for yourself and whatever you're living, and it's a time to really transcend, like, know your individuality, but transcend it into the collectivity. Like, what are we living on a global level, and consider more realities than just your own, and hopefully that this global virus can take people into a space where they can think a bit more universally, like how are we all living on this planet Earth together? What can we do in our own skill set, in our own capacity, to be part of like a global planetary healing, not just like of myself. I think that's where we would have to go, as if how can each individual serve the collective? Who can I collaborate with in my community to share resources, to share skills, to share knowledge, to create impactful things? Who are people that I would have never thought of merging my talents and gifts with, that have special offerings in different sectors of business or whatnot? How can we bring that together to offer something really beneficial to our community that is beyond us just trying to milk all the money we can from just like to give to our community? I think we're in a time where like that is what is needed right now, you know?
I think all that though, like everything you just said, I think the main thing is people need, I don't know what you guys think, but people need to take their ego and
Yes.
like put it aside.
Check it at the door, homie. I always say that.
Because that's the thing, man.
And also, and that comes with, that's why we rely so heavily on expertise in the world, or what we call expertise. But I would challenge that completely and say, if we left our ego at the door, then it's no longer Anthony Liscio, the accountant, or Anthony Liscio, the engineer, or Anthony Liscio, the this or that. It's, can you come back to like, hey, gut feeling, what do I feel about this?
Yeah, exactly.
Or is there something off with this that I wanna look at, or do I feel good about this? And what are other people saying? And oh, that's interesting, and whatever. And why couldn't we be more like that? You know, because in that case, then whether you're a doctor or an actual virologist or an engineer or whatever, then we could just have discussions over things, and then we wouldn't have to like discuss about what we disagree on that the media said. That's the thing. We should have the discussion about the topic. You know, it's like when they had that, the controversial election that we had last time. You know, it's like people were discussing more about two people rather than discussing about the topics like the economy or like healthcare or like things that actually matter. Where we all we do is talk about people now.
Yeah,
we don't talk about issues. We talk about people, and if we don't like that person or the other person, well, our opinion will be based off of that and not off of what's really going on in that issue. So hopefully what we can do with some of our media is be a little bit more cognizant of that automatic bias that we all have as humans, and try and step away from that by being less planned in certain aspects. We get away from the potential to fall into our own traps, I think.
That's interesting. Our own traps.
Yeah,
Yeah, we all have them for sure. I'm the first one to say that I have traps everywhere, but most of them are self-made traps. But it happens, and the whole point of it is to realize them and get out of them. So it's crazy, and I think that we pay too much attention to people instead of topics. Like you said, we pay attention to too many people instead of the actual subject of discussion. So
well, it's like the amount of racism and violence that's like affected Asian communities like since all this happened, right? Because of like a lot of what's put out there. I don't think that marginalizing peoples or groups is the solution, right? It's like a bigger
at the end of the day, it won't bring anything. Like, what's it going to bring to
But that's what I was saying. Anything that, any approach that divides us doesn't make us stronger as a human family.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I won't get too much into it, but I think we're a lot more interested in the distractions rather than the actual topics we're talking about.
That's the problem. And if I have to distract you from this conversation now, if I would have to ask you, if you had, let's say, unlimited budget, unlimited location.
Every media creator's dream.
Wait, well, exactly. So I'm trying to put it out there for you. And you know what? It's not as easy as you think of a question. But if you had unlimited budget, unlimited location, and a specific topic or message that you would like to deliver to your audience, what would it be?
Oh my God.
Well, I touched on it earlier. I think that there's a lot of wisdom in people who are living in unbroken lineages, who have been in generations in connection to Mother Earth. And I think that a lot of our like modernization and industrialization over here has taken us kind of like away from some of the messages that we get when we're living in harmony with nature. So definitely the project for me would definitely be going into those places and giving voices and creating dialogue and conversation between people who have been living off the matrix to inform people in the matrix so that we can find a happy middle ground that is a more harmony on the planet, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. As you were saying that, I was thinking, holy crap, what would it be talking or having discussions with these people? Like, what will we talk about?
This is my goal, man. As soon as
holy-
this quarantine is over, this is where I want to go. Yeah, it's
Like-
really calling me more than ever.
Like, I just thought about it now. It's like, what would I talk about? It's crazy.
I don't think you would have to talk, man. They would take you for a walk in the forest, tell you to leave your iPhone, check it at the door. When you check the ego, check the iPhone too,
Exactly.
and get the downloads from the trees, man.
I mean, if I had unlimited resources, I try and fish out all of the corruption that goes on in the world. I try and fish all that out. I would try and show people all the fallacies. For me, because I come from a banking background, I'll be honest with you. I'm schooled in economics, finance, and all of that, and I think that generally the population has really not a bad understanding. I just think the understanding we get, most people don't watch like business shows all day, right? They watch like the regular news, which has a 3-minute time slot to explain to you what happened in the 2008 financial crisis, for example, right?
Yeah.
I would, if I had unlimited budget, I'd love to show people that, their taxpayer money went to bail out banks that were predatory in that time.
It's funny because, this whole yin yang thing, this light shadow, I touched on it earlier.
Yeah,
I think we embody that that Anthony, and literally the way we're dressed today too. But Anthony, he wants to really dive into the shadow and to debunk a lot of what we've been told in traditional media. So that's one facet of with what we're co-creating here. Yeah. And then I want to go into the people who are have found a sort of harmony and peace and try to extract knowledge from that.
This is why it's so interesting and this is why I wanted to talk to you guys, because obviously I know you guys, it's like a number of years, right? So I kind of know how you guys do things, and that's why I said this is going to be interesting to talk to them and see what goes on. And I would just like to sit at the dinner table with you guys and see what the hell you guys talk about.
Yeah, it's funny. It's true that Lee has always been like this. You've known us for years and years, and even when Lee was 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, she was always super positive. So Lee will always look to highlight somebody doing something amazing, somebody doing something great for the world. She'll try and make something or a piece of art that's gonna really touch people and make them ascend to a higher vibration, right? Mm-hmm. I guess I'm a little bit more pessimistic and a bit more like, hey, what's going on over here and what's going on over there?
The Mythbuster.
But at the same time, it's been such an interesting and challenging relationship to have in both business and in life, because I think that's the beauty, right? Is the fact that we come at it from a different perspective and meet in the middle. That's where we find our truth.
Well, I think that's where true peace and harmony exists.
Yeah.
Is, we can't just be, all butterflies and rainbows. I am all butterflies and rainbows, but I'm willing to see the shadows too.
Yeah.
And I think that as a society, we need to be willing to see both. Some people are only living in the shadow of the fear, and they're not seeing the rainbow. And then other people just want to dance on the rainbow, but don't want to look at whoa, what are we doing to the planet with all our pollution? Like how are we really treating all the different peoples in our and like the greater community of this? Like, you know, we need a balance between both.
Both exist, right?
Both
exist.
And they will always exist.
Exactly.
On Earth. It's about that duality, you know, and what we want to come into is oneness. But how do you come into the oneness unless you accept both?
Well, you gotta for me, it's about like slowly starting to not let go of ego, but just notice it, right? You can't let go of ego either.
To watch it.
Ego is actually important for you, right? It's
exactly.
World, but
and
letting go a little bit of that, I think, allows you to realize that the light and shadow exist, and that it has always existed and will always exist. You know, and then it makes it a little bit more palpable when you see something really wrong in the world today, or when you see something really really great.
Mm-hmm. Interesting conversation. So I have to go take a walk in the woods, leave my phone out, check my ego at the door. Shit, I better go meditate. Fuck, I think I'm screwed.
And don't forget to find the rainbow.
Yeah,
okay, I'll try.
It's inside.
But yeah, I think you know what's really interesting is we talked before about like you know, you were saying how so much media is so quick, right? Like it's all about like 10-second ad or 30-second ad or a 2-minute news story or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And like, actually, though, big issues need to be hashed out in long form conversation, you know.
Because everybody wants everything quick today. Everybody wants it right away. Like, I want this now. It's like,
if we're discussing, let's say, COVID-19, right, and like the steps we should take in the next, how can that be a 2-second conversation or dictated to us?
Impossible.
It can't be that. Just like it can't, like, you know, we can't solve hunger by having a 2-minute conversation, or we can't do anything with a 2-minute conversation.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So maybe going a bit against the grain and doing stuff that's a little bit long form will become the new norm later, you know.
exactly.
If we never start exploring that, then it will never become that either, you know.
Well, because I think the long form brings another aspect to it, because it kind of
it brings the opportunity to suggest that there's a bias and we could hash out the bias.
It actually slows your mind down, and it actually gives your mind the opportunity to say, wait a minute, there's another side to this story. Maybe I should pay attention.
You know, in 30 seconds, in 1 minute, in 5 minutes, I can give you one side of something.
Yeah.
And if I'm convincing, any side I give you,
you'll believe it.
You'll believe. So,
but we have that duality within ourselves too.
Of course.
You know, we have that polarity. And I'm very, very interested in exploring that. Actually, the last art piece that I released on Instagram during this period that we're in was shot exactly a year ago. And it's called Light Shadow Work. And it's a container in which I guided a group of women with, I was co-facilitated by a dancer that is part of our collective here. Her name is Jade. And I was photo assisted by another artist named Alessia. And we guided a group of women through the experience of consciously embodying their light polarity and consciously embodying their shadow polarity.
Okay.
When you
explain that, yeah.
So this is what I mean, like when the art pieces involve the people, because it's not just like, okay, wear white and like stand like this. It was like, okay, how can we meditate before we create and whatnot, but like how can we arrive at that place of consciously embodying as a group what we feel like in these different polarities, because we all have them, right? And then how can we extract from that polarization an inner harmony as a group? So the photos and the video explore that conversation, that it exists within the individual.
Yeah.
It exists within the collective as well. So yeah, that's kind of
it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. It forces you to pay attention. It's as simple as that. Forces you to actually pay attention. Wow.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because we did this co-creation exactly a year before we went into quarantine. And I feel like what we're living now on Earth is an extreme polarization on Earth. So there's like this intensity of the shadow. And then, yes, there's like all these people who are having like spiritual awakenings because they're home being grateful for every drop of water coming out of their faucet. And they're like, they're seeing God in the drop. They're like, oh my God, like this is a blessing. I would have never realized this if I was in the hustle and bustle of the everyday. People are breathing, people are so, and I think that we're feeling so much on a planetary level. Everybody's in this quarantine, right?
Yeah.
Like we're feeling the extremities, you know? And I think that you need to feel that tug of war inside to kind of synthesize and come to like a central point within, you know? So
Yeah.
I think that in the long run that there's some magic in that will be unveiled, but there's a lot of conversations, long form and all the sides that need to be explored and lots of ego checking and nature questing in the middle of all that.
Well, hopefully at the end of this, something positive is going to come out like in general.
There will be for sure.
Because the thing that freaked me out the most is when I actually stopped, and I'm even talking about like myself personally, okay? The lifestyle that we were living, or the general population was living, this includes me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It was just out of whack.
Insane.
It was.
I did not feel balanced at all. The last few months before the corona hit, I was completely out of balance, just working too hard.
There is something about the capitalistic system that we have come to rely on that is
unsustainable,
horrifically unhealthy, way more unhealthy than the coronavirus.
Yes.
On both a physical and mental level. We're in fight or flight mode almost constantly. I'm saying this because I didn't leave banking, so to speak. I burnt out completely medically.
Yeah.
And then I chose to leave banking because I realized how much of a load of crap a lot of things are, and how much we are little gerbils, you know, on that little wheel a lot of the time, and unfortunately we do that all in the name of money.
Exactly.
Money and fear, right? Like, will I have enough? Is this safe enough? And now something like this comes in and just drops a bomb on everybody. No, your job's not safe. You know, your little business isn't safe. Nothing you do is safe because we're in a world where everything and anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we got to rethink the whole thing, you know, and maybe that's fine, you know, and hopefully if we move in that direction, that could be a healthy direction, but we could only do that by having the conversations that lead us there, you know?
And seeing, like, once again, how your individuality could shine within the collective. How can you be of service within your community to build those bridges, those rainbow bridges?
You love those rainbows, eh?
I'm all about them. I'm a rainbow woman.
It's interesting because, I mean, history has shown, right? Nothing has worked. None of our systems have really worked. They've gotten better, but they've never really worked. Communism didn't work, you know. Capitalism isn't working. Every 10, 15 years, they got to crash the market because infinite growth doesn't exist, and that's what they need. So they got to go down to go back up. And so maybe somewhere in between would be interesting, you know? And so this whole idea that, well, we spoke about before about the productions is how we want to run our company in general instead of a hierarchical society, more of a community. And that doesn't mean a community is not structured. Doesn't mean people don't have roles and responsibilities. It doesn't mean that there's not, that no money is involved or anything like that. It just means that at every step there's thought and care.
Everybody has to come to work with. I remember when I used to play sports, right? It's collective, right? And one of my best coaches, his statement or his slogan was always the same, and it's still stuck in my head. And basically, this guy said, every time you come here with your team, you have to come to a practice or a game or an event with your lunchbox. So I said, okay. The first time I said, what's your lunchbox? Like, does he mean that like for real, or like what the hell is he talking about? He goes, no. He goes, think about it. You have to come with your lunchbox, and in your lunchbox, you have to be able to have enough stuff to feed your team, so your teammates. He goes, and it's the only way you guys are going to survive collectively as a team is everybody has to do their part coming in and bringing something for everybody else.
It's a
And
potluck.
that was his thing, and he created such like a we were like,
Rallying.
no, we were 22 brothers on this team. You know,
I love that.
we weren't even teammates. We were like brothers, and he created that. And we weren't the most successful team in the league that year, but at the end of the day, it's like now you'll see these guys like 15, 20 years later, and it's like, what's up, man? Big hug. What's
Dude,
up?
that's
What's going on?
so beautiful. We try to cultivate that in our productions, that sense of family, you know? Like,
Well, that's why we have a select amount of people that we work with almost all the time, and that's what we call, like, you know, when Lee alludes to like the collective, it's like they're not employees of Haven. They're all individual people doing cool work, and over time we built a relationship with them, and now it just so happens that a lot of them slot into our projects, you know. Because obviously as a production company we can't just we can't roll out every production just Liana and I. Sometimes it requires a much bigger team.
Often, you know, you need that magic. So what we're trying to do on a micro level is exactly what I think needs to be done, is that we need to honor that special magic spice in each individual and come together in a pot to cook something. You know, everybody brings their lunchbox, it's like better, you know, what's cooked up, right? Like,
I think we're too much in an incentive-based society, right? People only do things in capitalism because they need to be incentivized to do them, right? I think we got to move more. Look, for me, there's going to be change right after this, and I really.
But we need the change makers to roll it out.
Yeah, I strongly believe this. The kind of change that's going to be there, it's going to be, or we just accept whatever change is told. You know, like we need to go here, or we all really like start thinking and feeling again and saying, okay, what's going to be good for us? Because people keep saying, I can't wait to go back to the way it was. Can't wait to go back to the way it was. But the way it wasn't working either.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got to be cognizant of that. And I think moving, you know, incentive-based, competition-based way of running the world. I think it worked for a certain point. I think it had to be like that to allow for a certain amount of growth. You know, I don't think anything is lost in a sense, you know. But I think, as we've always done, we're going to evolve.
We're all evolving.
The evolution has to be conscious.
We have to keep evolving. There's no choice about that.
You know, it's funny how we could rally behind this thing. There's so many things that we should probably be rallying behind.
So many. It's
one out
insane.
of 2 men, 1 out of 3 women get cancer. 3 million people died this year of cancer. Why don't we rally behind that? You know, you know, I got a million other examples like that. So
I know it's
there's still poverty. There's still slavery in some places. There's so many problems.
But this is what I'm saying, is that I hope that, like, I think, you know, for one human being to try to tackle all that is ridiculous, right?
Impossible.
It's important to be as conscious as you humanly can, but we each need to identify where we're going to give our part when it comes to giving. How do you show up beyond yourself and your own gains? How do you show up for your community, for your country, for your planet? Imagine everybody got into this mindset. Everybody could be a change maker, but you have to do it in the way you can, within your capacity and with the people who you can mobilize. within your own community. Maybe you're an older Italian folk and you know how to plant gardens. You're a change maker. You could teach everybody on your street this year how to make a garden.
Exactly.
Then, you know what? Maybe you're just a good organizer. You gather up all the nannies who know how to do gardens, where you run the neighborhood gardening party.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's being a change maker, man.
For sure.
That's like putting
For
the
sure.
power back in the people, giving them the seeds, saying, we're going to plant shit.
And
beautiful.
Without an agenda. That's the why don't people give money or give their time without saying that they did it these days?
Yeah.
Why? Because it's a tax incentive.
Exactly.
It always comes down to some sort of incentive. Why not just be good to be good?
Exactly. What if I do something for you? What do I get? That's the thing. What do I get?
Or what
100%.
agenda am I pushing? Why am I putting my time here? I'd be more impressed if there wasn't like things or agendas associated to people doing quote unquote good in the world.
For sure.
Mhm.
I think there's not enough. There's not enough time devoted to that, into showcasing the positivity. And the reason for that is because I think that people in general, the way the human mind works, they cling on faster, or it gets their attention faster if it's negative or fear based. It leeches onto them, right? People kind of like we love pain. That's the problem, right? A lot of people
because
love
it's something
pain.
we all connect over. That's the thing. So it's an interesting thing, and marketers and advertisers and
It's very manipulative.
in
You
large
can
part-
manipulate a lot with
There
it.
you go.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think marketers and advertisements, and to a large part, like governments, have always been interested in what drives people, right? Because that aspect of social engineering is how we sell things to people. It's how we sell ideas to people. It's how we have people vote for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's that's why when you're just speaking about something and suddenly your iPhone sells you something, right? Like this is what we do, So and we've learned that some of the primal things, like fear, like sadness, like anything that's very primal and innate to us, is something that hooks our attention, right?
Exactly.
It's like when you go to a business, right? And they say it's like you're way more likely, if you love the experience, you might have 1 out of 10 people make a comment online to say this was great.
Yeah.
If you hate the experience, like 9 out of 10 people will write about it. Or and I'm just throwing that out. Don't quote me on those numbers, but like we're so much more inclined. But it's because we've literally been programmed all this time to be that way. This is all we've been watching all our lives. Is negative media.
Exactly. So if I had two last questions for you guys, okay? Because if not, if we don't stop, we could go on like probably till tomorrow. But two last questions is one: if you had one feeling to choose to bring forward, like an emotion, what would it be? And the second question is, in 10 years from now, where do you guys see yourselves?
Jeez. Never big on 10-year plans or any plans. But
where do you visualize yourself? If you ask me the same question, you know what I'll answer you? I don't know. I don't know.
Fine. Just especially right now. But when you say, is it any emotion that comes to mind of how we're feeling right now?
No, what you want people to feel when they see your work, Anthony.
Yeah.
Oh, and they see
there you go. Thanks.
I know mine. I'm waiting for him.
Go for it. You go. If you know it.
I think mine is a hybrid between hope and unconditional love.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, obviously, I'm in line with 100% what Lee says, but for me, it's also I want people to feel empowered. Like I want people to feel like they have a right to choose again, because I think so many decisions are made despite ourselves, and I think people should be allowed to choose how they want to think and feel, and respectfully. So hopefully empowerment in some form, hope and love, man. It's all
And like,
comes down to.
but true love, man. Love for who you truly are, acceptance, love for your fellow brothers and sisters, and for this beautiful planet that we're blessed to live on. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you for joining me in this conversation. It was amazing.
Thank you. That was fun.
And also next time, maybe we'll do it face to face without social distancing. It might be a little bit different, but thanks to this beautiful technology we have. So I just want to let people know, like, where could they find your work? Where could they reach you? Where could go look at your stuff?
Well, you can find my work at Liana Carbone Photo on Instagram, lianacarbone.com. And then you can find our work with the studio and our collective over at havencreative.studio.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff coming out soon. I'm still new to the media game, so last year was me building out a lot of stuff, a lot of skills, a lot of work. So soon to come.
Very nice.
Coming soon, Anthony Liscio.
Awesome.
And our 10-year plan. We didn't answer you.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's true. I asked you the question. I answered, but you guys never answered. So go ahead. 10-year plan.
The love can expand, and we can be doing this with a bigger community and a bigger platform to share and make those bridges.
Yeah, I think right now we're creating. We start off by producing the media. I think eventually we want to broadcast some of the media. And
awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
What we're doing and what we believe in,
and the people around the world who we believe in are spreading like this good vibration and bringing awareness to a lot of things, and just link up, we have a little global community going on, but really expand that. So
very nice.
That's our plan.
Super cool plan. I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff.
Thank you for this opportunity and asking us so many beautiful questions, giving us a chance to share our voice on your platform. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, not to mention fun to reconnect with an old friend.
Yeah,
for sure. Obviously, both it works on my side too. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for having such a super nice conversation. Interesting as always. I knew it was going to be interesting, like I said, and it lived up to my expectations. Usually I don't make expectations, but for this one I had, so it was good. But yeah, super, and it was super fun talking to you guys again, and we'll do it soon for sure again.
Well, great stuff with the podcast initiative, and good luck to you with that, and hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Blessings, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao.